Hello and welcome to the Latte Show podcast with myself, Andrew Byrne.
And myself, Anthony Byrne.
I suppose it's the first podcast, Anthony. Excited?
Yeah, a nice introduction episode just to let the people kind of know what we're about and why we're doing a podcast randomly.
Yeah. I suppose we'll break into why we actually decided to do the podcast. So I'll just basically when I was down on Cork on a staycation with my lovely girlfriend Kira, who should be listening. If not, I'll kill her. We were down in Cork and we were just on the way home and we were chatting away about podcasts. She's listened to a few different podcasts. She's getting excited around the Bandwagons podcast, and basically I was telling her about a few different podcasts I'm listening to as well, and how basically myself and yourself are kind of interested in podcasts and everything, and she recommended that we start a podcast. And I suppose you're kind of gone mad into coffee last couple of months, aren't you?
Kind of. I think I don't know. I drink it for the caffeine really, but I am kind of getting more interested in, I suppose, a bit further than just going up and getting a coffee. Like I'm a bit interested in all these kind of gimmicky household making coffee from home kind of things. So like I have the AeroPress bought there, and I have Nescafe machine that I got for my birthday, and I'm just kind of really interested in the different ways of making the coffee and the different tastes then from the different ways. When you were down in Cork, like with Kira, you sent me a message on WhatsApp and was just like, Kira says we should do a podcast and travel around Ireland and, go to different cafes. And I was in bed, like, woke up to a text, like, and I was like, I think I replied something like, yeah, let's go for it. But then I woke up and it was like, is that a dream, or did he actually text me that, or what? And what were you feeling like that way? Like, what were you feeling?
Oh yeah, no, I just thought I just like the idea of kind of the tech side of it, and the just putting together a podcast. It would be quite interesting, and it's a nice excuse for basically the two of us just to tip around to different parts of the country and hopefully get to kind of visit different towns and different parts of Ireland that we actually would never have went to. Yeah. Especially with the coronavirus and everything, it's like it's just a nice excuse to do some traveling, but still be within the measures and everything, and be tipping around Ireland. Like, yeah,
actually, when we were doing a bit of a brainstorm about kind of, I suppose, the reason behind it, like it all kind of came together very quickly. When Andrew texted me like a couple of weeks later, we had the mic spot, and we were rushing into it a little bit, but I suppose just because we're excited about it and we want to get it going. But I was kind of thinking along the lines of like, you get to see Ireland kind of one cup of coffee at a time, and I suppose, I don't see a better way to do it.
Yeah, 100%. And sure, everyone's mad into coffee these days as well. Sure, Hacketstown, we're from Hacketstown for anyone who is unsure of who we are. We're from Hacketstown, County Carlow, and Hacketstown is now the capital, the coffee capital of Carlow, I hear.
Yeah, so we're actually enjoying, we're enjoying a nice cup of coffee from a local barista, I suppose you could call him.
The barista king.
From Let's Talk About Coffee is the name of his
Let's Talk About Coffee trailer. Yeah. It wouldn't have been a bad name for a podcast now.
Yeah, he stole that. But Jar Moorhead is our good friend's name there, but he's running a kind of a, what would you call it, like a food truck cafe?
It's just a coffee truck, I suppose. Yeah, there's a lot of them popping up around Dublin and stuff as well.
So,
actually,
he opened it up during lockdown, and like I was actually thinking that's actually a great shout, and
he's filling a hole in the town there that I suppose there was a hole for that sort of a thing for years, really, kind of like a little spot within the area, because there's so many different villages and people around this area. I'd say everyone's delighted someone made the initiative to do it.
Definitely. And I hope, I would say he's doing well, because any time you drive by him at any stage during the day, there's always a car, 2 or 3 cars parked up waiting to be served their coffee. Like, and I think, to be honest, he has definitely daily customers. and they come every day for the same order and for the few chats as well.
Yeah, and even
that's
just
part
chats
of it.
with like the people that are there with you, like just the different customers, is like a nice little central hub of I suppose the community now, that you're like you're bound to bump into someone random and you're just like, oh well, what's the crack?
Yeah, there's always someone like that you haven't seen in a little while, kind of going for a coffee there, and when you're driving by, you think, Jenny, I haven't seen them in ages.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd like to basically give his Instagram a shout, because they've done a really good job of basically promoting their business and through
Yeah,
the media of Instagram.
and look, he's given us a lot of support to start this podcast, and he's been very good with ideas and sharing our posts and our page on his own page. So
do you want to give I suppose our new Instagram family a bit of a shout out as well?
Yeah, so like our Instagram page is _ the Latte Show, for anyone that's listening that didn't find out from Instagram. But then for Let's Talk About Coffee, it's exactly that. At Let's Talk About Coffee. If you look it up on Instagram, you'll find his page there. And look, if you're ever driving around the area, stop off and get coffee, and I'm sure Gerald have loads of chats for you as well.
Give him a bit of a mention and all on social and everything. But
definitely.
Yeah, I suppose thanks to everyone who's followed the Instagram page. There's like 700 and something people now.
Yeah, unbelievable. I was expecting 50.
yeah, and it's a really nice boost. And it's kind of creating a bit of a hype around what we're doing, which we actually have to try and fulfill the hype now and try and deliver a bit of crack and a bit of coffee shy talk.
No pressure,
but sure, look, I suppose the name of the show, the Latte Show, some people found that quite a good name and stuff. Do you want to break down how that came about? Because we came up with a lot of different
it's definitely
names.
worth a mention. So a friend of ours, Mark Byrne, when we a couple of weeks ago, when we were starting the idea of the podcast, we had a few names in mind, because
and the logo and everything.
Yeah, and I just said I'd drop him an old message, because he's just really clever and witty, and anyone that knows him knows he's just so clever in relation to social media and posting anything.
He's got a good
clever
wit
man
about him. He's really like comedic value is always solid
he's
enough.
a funny fucker, like.
Yeah.
But we were first of all thinking like, the cafe tour of Ireland, or
the cafe tour of Ireland,
coffee trail
of Ireland with Andrew and Anthony, with the Byrne Twins, the twin Byrnes. But
he just came out with, when I was chatting with him, I was asking him about different logo ideas and different names, and he came out with like the Latte Show would be a great idea, and I kind of thought immediately that's actually unreal, because I kind of like the Late Show, and it doesn't I suppose pigeonhole us into being these travel
just talking about
coffee
or just traveling. It means that like if we're stuck, like
we can do a podcast from home here. We're currently at home in our own kitchen doing this podcast, so
yeah, exactly. So if we're stuck, we can just be grand. But also the plan is to travel around the spots. So do you want to break down a couple of spots that have already got in touch with us that we're planning on basically going and doing a bit of a podcast?
So look, we sent out a few feelers, because obviously we want to go to different cafes and see a bit of Ireland. So we're very delighted with the response, really, because out of a few cafes we've messaged, they've all come back with quite positive responses, wanting to organise dates and times. And look, we won't drop where we're going next week, because that'll kind of spoil next episode. It can be a nice surprise, but
yeah,
there's other spots like the Fat Fox up in Delgany, Hungry Bear over in Gorey, even the Ugly Mug down in Tralee. These are all class names, cafes. I don't know, I'm quite obsessed with the names of cafes as well these days.
Yeah, the Screaming Bean up in Monaghan's a good one as well.
Yeah, and Storm in a Teacup, they've all responded quite positively, and kind of very supportive. We weren't really expecting so many cafes to be like welcoming
on board
us
nice and quick. Like,
yeah,
I thought that might have been the hardest thing, is to convince people to let us go and do it from their cafe. Like,
I suppose it's a little bit of advertisement for themselves as well, and we're not asking for anything in return on a bit of space in there.
Yeah, we're just looking for a bit of space. a reason to get out of Hacketstown basically and tip
Yeah,
somewhere around.
just see a bit.
Yeah, and then obviously we're going to probably chat a bit about the cafe itself, chat a bit about the area. I think some kind of coffee shops would like to basically get in and have a chat with us for a couple of minutes, maybe about what they are.
Yeah, like so the type of coffee they use, maybe where they might source their coffee. Do they roast their own beans? I know there is a few different coffee shops around that, you know, roast their own beans, and then there are specialty roasters in Ireland, like, you know, West Cork Coffee Roasters and Creed Coffee Roasters, and I think up in Kildare there's PS Coffee Roasters as well, like, and they would also supply like cafes kind of probably within, you know, a 30-mile radius of themselves, like, or even more maybe, which is another thing that we're going to probably get into. I'd like to probably get them onto the podcast or go do a podcast in one of their roasteries just to see what they do as well, like, so that's definitely on the pipeline as well. What other stuff would you like to let the fans know that we're going to be talking about, Drew?
The friends of the podcast, I suppose we're going to hopefully have, I suppose, general talk as well about what's going on in the world. Hopefully what's going on in the world of Ireland, in Ireland, I suppose, more so just a bit more localized, funny news stories or funny stories, incidents that are going on and stuff, that might get people talking and might we'll give our opinion about it and people can tell us, oh, you're wrong or you're right or whatever. But
we're
then
going
also,
to be right anyway, definitely.
Yeah, we're going to probably be right, but let us know if you think otherwise. But also we'll move from that then into I suppose the general, once we get the news of the week out, we'll go into a bit of a general talk about possibly coffee, cafes, and some of our ideas around like how Instagram is being used to promote cafes, how the coffee culture was.
That's a really good one, because that's definitely something we're going to have in one of our future episodes, is kind of the power of Instagram and how not just cafes or coffee shops, but restaurants, businesses in general use the power of Instagram to their advantage to basically we were kind of chatting about this before, like we were kind of talking like Instagram is now like the modern day word of mouth. Back in the day, the best way to spread your business was, you know, share it with your neighbours, word of mouth, and people find out then, and that is still a great way to do it, but like Instagram has basically just accelerated that and multiplied it by 1,000.
So like every young person really has the guts of 1,000 people on their Instagram followers and following or whatever, and if they're putting up your business onto their page and they're sending it to their friends through that kind of way, as well as like traditional word of mouth, then obviously those people's friends are going to try and do the same thing, and it becomes a culture of, it's just while I'm at this place, I'm going to throw it up. It's a nice chain, and it also creates like a spread across the country and across like we have friends like all from
college and from
all
other
parts
things
of the country, and sure they're seeing Let's Talk About Coffee or any other places we've been, and they're seeing it. So if they're anywhere in Carlow or anywhere nearby traveling by, they'll say, oh, that spot, I recognize that. Why do I recognize that? It's cause
straight away then it's literally advertisement. It's free advertising. I know there are influencers that probably aren't free to advertise, but I think the likes of the everyday person like us or our mates or, you know, anyone that's kind of not these big influencers, like it's just as good, because you're seeing it on your friend's story. But like what I was going to say is, like, if anything is Instagrammable, it's going to do well, because if you lean into that Instagram ability of your business, so if you lean into the social media factor with different props, I suppose, inside your cafe or that, to kind of promote the use of this social stuff. So like the design of the place, if it looks quite fresh or quirky, people will be like, I want to get a picture in here with my little cup, and all the rest of it looks pretty cool, trendy, I suppose. But if you go onto Instagram in the morning, like on the weekend, I'd say maybe every 2 or 3 stories you'll see a picture of a coffee cup with a nice cappuccino, a nice bit of latte art on the top, you know, maybe some chocolate sprinkles, and like it's and
just
then
appealing.
at whatever cafe they're at, and the location is on it, and like it makes you. I find like I'm looking at that, I'm like, oh my god, I want to go for a coffee now.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
looks class.
Yeah.
And like
Or
I
even
was,
like people when they post a pint of Guinness,
yeah,
and you're like, that pint of Guinness looks unreal.
all you want then is a creamy pint of Guinness.
Yeah, and you're like, that particular Guinness looks savage. Where was that? Because like,
yeah,
it looks so tasty, or everyone little like, oh, that's such and such a pub in Galway, or whatever pub in Carlow Town, or whatever.
I wonder, like, is there I suppose a similarity between like a good pint of Guinness like and a good cup of coffee?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like, so where you are, like if you're in an old Irish pub and you know the Guinness is flowing and you see everyone else in the pub drinking Guinness, and you know the bartender's going to put like proper attention into the pint of Guinness, you're kind of you're sitting there thinking this is going to be delicious. Like, does that come into like, you know, the perfect cup of coffee? Like if you're going into a cafe and you know, like it's a busy bustling cafe, you know, the vibes are really cool, and you know,
the baristas here are savage at making coffee.
Yeah,
really
you
put
know
the
what,
attention
they're
into
putting
it.
the time and effort into each coffee.
Because when you're getting a pint of Guinness, especially like down in Clonmore, there's a barman down there, and he's just an older fella, and he literally like every single pint of Guinness it's as if he's going to drink it himself. He's just pouring it with such a love, and you're just looking at him and you're like, that man loves Guinness so much that when he pours it, he just makes the perfect little, and there's no bubbles running at the top, and he just looks at it and you're like, he's proud of pulling.
He's an artist. Like.
He pulls about 200 at a night, but he pulls them all perfectly. Like,
but like that's another thing. Like, so like the artistry of it. Like there's definitely an artistry, and that's the way coffee's going at the moment. Like, you know, I suppose there's different coffee movements. So basically the history of coffee basically can be divided kind of into a few different waves. So the first wave of coffee, when it first came onto the scene, was like, you know, your instant coffee, bog standard, a spoon, boiling water, stirred black coffee.
and is this like is that wave one, like, is that like a time period
it's
worldwide,
kind of
or
a
is
time
that,
period?
does that depend on what country you're in?
No, so it's basically it's not depending on what country, I suppose, because it was kind of Americanized that this kind of, when it first came out, like, you know, they'd have their coffee in a cup of joe in the morning, like, and it kind of spread then probably into Europe, and but like obviously I suppose it is probably different per country, because you have your French and Italian coffee and they like it certain ways or whatever. But that moved into, you know, the second wave, which would be, you know, Starbucks, Costa, big fucking chains that
massive change,
that basically just took over the whole coffee market, basically
branding it, like just turning it into a
big brand, turn it into a brand, a fashionable
just
thing
a
to go
McDonald's
and get your
version
Starbucks
of coffee, like.
Yeah, like a takeaway coffee wasn't around, you know, when coffee first came onto the scene. People were just like, sure, it's just a cup of coffee, like why would you go and pay €3 or €4 for a cup of coffee? But Starbucks kind of kicked that trend in, by people going, meeting in Starbucks, having a coffee. Then that then has gone kind of even further nowadays into kind of the third wave, is what kind of would be, you know, more of an artisan, fresh coffee beans. It's kind of more of a fresh food source rather than just a hot beverage in the morning. Like it's fresh food, like the same as you're going to go buy fresh veg, fresh fruit.
Yeah,
like you can buy fresh coffee beans that, you know, are roasted that week. They have a you know, a date of roast date on them within the last couple of weeks. You know, you're getting fresh coffee, and people are appreciating that even more these days than ever. Like, you know,
we have a couple of cafes down as well who do that sort of crack. So as we can probably talk a bit more about it with them.
Yeah, I know for a fact that neighborhood in Carlow would be one of those people, one of those kind of cafes that roast their own blend. They go and they roast their own. They find their own beans. They want to blend their own unique flavor. They actually sell beans in their coffee shop, and that's common as well these days.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of another trend that's coming up. Like, I know Badger and Dodo are a huge coffee brand at the moment. Like if you look up a cafe on Instagram, you'll see in the bio, and then they'll say at Badger Dodo coffee served
as
here.
their supplier or
Yeah,
whatever.
like their blend, they make their own coffee as well. I think they're Cork based, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't know, to be honest, there's a lot of Cork based coffee roasting and a lot of, I suppose, when I was doing my research on kind of cafes that would like to go to, a lot of them are down in Cork, Kerry region, in Munster, and that was kind of interesting. Like I was kind of like, you think there'd be more, I suppose, in Dublin and
centralised
bigger
around
cities. I suppose Cork has its own city, but
yeah, they have their own kind of vibe down there as well. Similar to Galway has its own vibe.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that all kind of kicks into it. I suppose if you want, we'll break into that sort of crack. I suppose in the next couple of podcasts. Hopefully we have the second one recorded next weekend and out next weekend as well. But yeah, for this weekend, if you want to kick into a bit of general news.
Yeah, go for it.
So
tell me what's happening in the news.
So this is what's happening. So last weekend, right, there was this Instagrammer, right? Her name is Jess Brennan, and I'm not sure if any of our fans know about this one.
Probably not.
She's got 70-something thousand followers.
Oh, really?
On her Instagram, so they might know her.
I've never heard of her.
She's a model of some sort, and I went to go looking on her page after this incident, but her page was privatised, or she just turned it to private, I think, after the kind of shitstorm that surrounded the event that she organised. I'm fairly sure she was part of the organisation of this liquid brunch, basically. It was like a boozy brunch where... there's a bar up in Dublin called Berlin, and I think it's kind of a hipstery enough kind of dance music scene. I'm not 100% on that. I've never actually been there, but video footage from this kind of boozy afternoon brunch thing. There was a barman where I think he was wearing a face mask, but he was up on like a pole on the counter of the bar or whatever. And he had like Fat Frog or something, and some cheap enough looking shot, and he was pouring it into the
Mickey Fins or something
as like some cheesy like noughties pop song was playing in the background, and everyone's dancing and jumping around together, and it just went viral because it was just,
he was pouring it into people's mouths.
He was up on the oak pouring it into people's mouths. It was literally something you'd see on a leaving cert holiday, like in Spain or in some Magaluf or something. Something pure David McCartney, actually. Like you'd see David McCartney hang. Like I'm surprised this lad didn't have his top off. It was that cheesy, right? But that's no shade to Davey. Davey's a great man. But your man basically was pouring shots into people's mouths with the one bottle, basically like. Just pure. Can't be
Corona for you, a little bit of Corona.
Yeah. It's like, and you have these people like who have masks on, but they're like putting it around their like neck, so they don't have it covering their mouth, and they're dancing around. It's like, if you're going to wear a mask at all, put it over your mouth. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's the point? If you're going, either go all out and don't put the mask on, or wear the fucking thing.
Like.
But it blew up anyway. Because
what happened there?
So basically, they let everyone in right at like the opening hour. It was like 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock or whatever. And
what time during the day was this all happening?
During the day. Like I was surprised. Like it looked as if it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, late night. Kind of everyone was locked basically. But the video was only about 30 seconds long or so. But they let everyone in at like 2 o'clock opening time, and then shut the doors. So everyone that was in, and everyone that, like, no one else could get in.
How many people were there? Like?
There would apparently they say that there was social distancing numbers, and they had capacity quite reduced and everything to make sure everything was okay. And the guards and everyone came and apparently checked CCTV, and they made the decision that no real measures were being broken. That it was only really certain aspects of it that were very like sore on the eye when it comes to the COVID measures. And when the video came out, it was basically it just looked like mayhem basically. But this girl Jess Brennan, everyone, she just went viral, and then the whole country knew what her name was. And even Simon Harris basically like tweeted out the video and said, "This is a disgrace.
Who did?
Simon Harris. So basically, to that extent, he was basically slamming this event and saying this is mayhem. Everyone was asking for the closure of the bar and stuff. But then what happens? So that happens on a Saturday night or Saturday evening, I think, right? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. On the Tuesday, Micheál Martin comes out and says, right, lads, no more than 6 allowed in the house. These are all very bad. We need to COVID measure the whole country back up a bit. Kildare, you're going back on lockdown in a couple of days. All this crack was happening, right? That was the Tuesday. Everyone's like, this is a disgrace. It's all like, what's Micheál Martin put us under? Lockdown again when it's the meat factories and direct provision is where the outbreaks are, and it's due to the circumstances of those places. But what happens on the Wednesday night? Over in Galway, there's an event organised by the Oireachtas Golf Society. Right. So the Oireachtas is obviously a mix of Dáil Éireann and the Seanad, and also I think technically the President of Ireland is part of the Oireachtas. So basically the government body, like not the government but the political sphere is part of the Oireachtas, so right?
Michael D could have been over there golfing if he wanted, like.
I'm sure he had an invite, but I'm not sure if he was going. But anyway,
that's better, I'd say.
There was basically 80 people at this event in Galway when the rules were clearly stated that
50,
even before the Tuesday, the rules stated that events of that size couldn't take place. I'm fairly sure. And also Tuesday, people were told like you're not allowed to go to GA matches, you're not allowed to do all these different things. Avoid congregation, avoid all this crack. The next day, there's a minister, TDs, members of the Seanad, members of councils and different things all
I think
went
even
to this
High
event.
Court judges and all were there.
Yeah, there was a Supreme Court judge and he literally apologies left, right and centre. I'm sorry I went to the Oak, I shouldn't have been there, la la la. The country basically has been going crazy with this because it seems to be...
We're getting told, wear a mask into Soup Value and get in and get out. And they're going drinking, playing golf, having the crack with 80 people.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they were actually playing golf, but they were at a golf event where they were celebrating some sort of like a big number. I think they were like 30 years or 50 years or whatever it's been going, right? But there's been loads of them basically apologising. Phil Hogan, he's I'm not sure exactly, he's part of the EU stuff, not sure, Google him anyway.
EU Commissioner.
Yeah, and basically he came out originally and was like, I was invited to the event, but he was basically saying, I'm not apologising because I didn't, by the sounds of it, it was like, kind of like, I didn't organise this, so I've nothing to apologise for. I went imagining that they were in the right measures, but then like another 24 hours went by and he apologised. But he apparently there's a fella from Monaghan, a councillor, right, and this fella he loves the golf, right, so he was 8 days prior to the event on Wednesday was in Spain, a country that's not on Ireland's green list. So it means you have to, when you return, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks. 8 days prior to the event, he was in Spain, according to the newspapers like Irish Examiner and stuff. I think were reporting on it, and Northern Sound. But he basically didn't obviously quarantine for the full 14 days at least, and he went to this event. So, as you were saying, it seems to be, there's one rule for the elites of the country, and then there's one rule for the everyday person. And Jess Brennan, your one, actually put it onto her story like,
this is
she amplified it. It was like, look at this, like,
just to take the heat off her.
Taking the heat off her, but she should have probably just not bothered saying anything because she's just putting more heat on herself, because everyone's like, yeah, they're bad, but you're bad as well. But I will probably say, out of it all, like, because I think there's a Gardaí investigation into it. But anyway, out of everything, it seems as though it was almost like the Oireachtas Golf Society was like, I see your little event, Jess Brennan, and I raise you on. And they basically just, and they put up a partition right in the middle of it, thinking this will be like a way of basically
saying it's 40
saying
and
it's
40.
two events, but it's not like there's people like who are getting married and stuff, had to cancel weddings, all that sort of crack because they can only have 50 people. But then if they knew that they could put up a partition in the middle of the hall and there's grand, have 100 people in there, no bother. So yeah, rightfully so. So I suppose you didn't really know about that story until I said it to you earlier.
Yeah.
So what's your kind of initial reaction? What would you say now if you were in initially Jess Brennan's situation and then subsequently if you were at this golf event?
I don't know. Like, I suppose I think it's suppose just hypocritical, like, and contradictory. Like, so yeah, like,
I'm just gonna pause it there for a second because I think the camera's after. Alright, sorry there lads, the camera went off there for a second. It can only record 30 minutes at a time by the sounds of it. But anyway, as we were saying there,
like you were asking me what I thought, and I suppose if I was in that Jess Brennan's shoes, like, it's just, you're keeping a low profile, like, you're already on fire, don't be jumping into another fire, like.
Yeah,
you know,
like there's been, it was so funny looking at Twitter and stuff. So basically, everyone was like, "Oh, imagine being your one Jess Brennan in the morning when she wakes up from the hangover or whatever, and then looks up onto her web and then just sees like her phone blowing up, and it's like, oh, what happened last night?" Like of all things, like of all ways of having to fear the next day, that's one of the worst ways. You have a government, basically Simon Harris, who was the health minister
keyboard warrior
COVID,
Harris,
basically keyboard warrior Harris, says Anto. But Simon Harris coming out saying this is a disgrace. And then literally,
to be fair,
and then even Micheál Martin on Tuesday mentioned the Berlin Bar, and he's like, "I'm not singling out the Berlin Bar, but
yeah, I am."
Yeah, he's basically like, he still mentioned them, like, so anyway.
Yeah, no, you can't be at that. Like, you can't be telling us to, you know, especially if you're like thinking from even business owners, like pub owners, who can't serve food or don't have the facility to serve food, and they have to close, like, their livelihoods basically put on pause, and then you have these people who are telling us about to do all these things are going totally against it. Like, it's just not fair.
24 hours later,
like, it's just unfair, and like, you can understand fully why like so many people are so angry over it. Like,
yeah,
like, I obviously it's just all you want is a bit of consistency, isn't it? Like, just a bit of fairness.
And I think it has to be said, before the new government came in, there was an awful lot of consistency, so there was no real issues with what
Leo.
He's the Tánaiste now, so he's still there. Like, he's still in the
there,
government,
but he's hiding, I think.
On Tuesday, he was nowhere to be seen. It was only Micheál Martin and the Green Party leader Eamon Ryan standing up there, and also the new health minister. And basically they were all standing up there saying, "All right, lads, we're going to have to reduce the capacity of people in the homes," and all this crack, new measures basically. And where's the Tánaiste? Nowhere to be seen. So if that's like possibly a way of basically like hiding from, like, taking a step back from these measures, saying, "Look, this isn't on me," like, because it seems to be working that way, that everyone since then has been blaming Micheál Martin, the new Fianna Fáil government, but there's no real talk about, because there's plenty of Fine Gael ministers and like the Tánaiste veracrers in there as well, so they're all obviously part of these same meetings making these decisions as well. But politically, I think
the final decision is being the way that it's being
he's
put
kind of
on
like, this isn't me, this is Mr. Martin there. But yeah, it's funny how it's all breaking down anyway. But yeah.
In other news, last weekend,
yeah, this is a good one now.
Myself,
for any is who are any interest in doing something for
staycation wise,
myself and Anthony went down to
Clogher
Strand there in Arklow.
Yeah, so we went down, I suppose, just to get away from the politics for a second there, Andrew loves his politics, so he can get into. He has a lot of knowledge about it. I haven't a clue, to be honest.
The politics of Jess Brennan.
It's quite interesting, to be honest. But we'll go a little bit towards what me and Andrew and a few of our mates got up to over the last weekend. We decided it would be great crack to go to the beach camping.
Yeah. We made a decision literally it was on the Thursday.
And then we went the Friday evening.
McCartney was saying, everyone come up to Galway, we'll have a bit of crack in Galway. And then everyone was like, it's a bit, 3 hours going up there. Why don't you come down to the rest of us? And someone mentioned going camping on the beach because Laura, your missus...
Laura went last week, or not last week, a few weeks before with her mates, and she said it was classic. And
it looked really good.
Like... I was like, surely the tide's going to come in and sweep you off like the beach, like. But we were actually camping on the actual beach, which I just thought was mad.
It was really
honest,
cool.
But, Dave went mad then on the Friday during the day. He was off work, so he went over to the army surplus store. He bought a gazebo. He bought a fire kind of barbecue thing.
A kettle barbecue is what they call it.
Just like a little phone shop to get that. It wasn't. He just went mad about going and getting tents and. Basically just real excited about this camping trip, and we all kind of arrived at different times. Andrew arrived at like 10:30.
I know. I was working till 6 o'clock up in Dublin, and then I went swimming in Malahide first because I had promised Ciara that I'd go swimming with her. So we went swimming. We went swimming, right? And that was great crack. And then I spun down the road then to Carlow. It was only like an hour drive, so arrived down about 10 on the dot, was it? 9 on the dot?
Yeah, but like the reason, like me, Dave and Connor arrived, kind of set up all the tents, set up the fire, set up the gazebo, like hardship, lugging all this stuff down. Davey brought half the country down with him, like all the stuff. The car was absolutely jam-packed, and so at that stage the tide was out-ish, like, so we could walk on sand with all the stuff, but obviously as it got later and later, the tide got closer and closer to the shore, and it was black dark. Andrew arrived, and me and Dad were like, we're going to have to carry all his stuff over, like, basically, if I was trying to describe it,
like just kind
basically
of
a load of rocks, and you couldn't walk.
Because I didn't realise that the water would be like, it didn't even cross my mind that the water was going to be up to an extent that you couldn't actually just walk. Like, I didn't know where on the beaches were or what, so I was just like, sure, just arrive at whatever time and I'll just go down to you, like. But I
know, and I
arrived then, and I had loads of gear and all, like, and thankfully you had brought some of my stuff from home and brought it from the car or whatever. But so we basically had like a box of beer and like different, like I had a gear bag on and different things, and we're just lugging it across these like which was using a headlamp basically as the sea was crashing against the water, the rocks.
And it was windy enough, like it was windy enough night, like.
But it was but after about 20 minutes of this like hiking across terrain, we finally came across the beautiful sight of a fire pit in the distance, gazebo
the
above
glow
it,
of the fire,
lads drinking beer around it, and I just thought, right, this is the start of it now.
And arrived with his stir-fried beef.
Yeah, I had made earlier that day a massive portion of stir-fry, threw it into a couple of bowls and brought it on with me. And Anto brought some forks ready to rock. And that was actually, I think, the highlight of the night, was eating that stir-fry.
Well, that's because you only arrived at that stage. We had made burgers before you arrived. You should have seen this contraption that they've bought. Like, Connor tried to put it together, and Connor was reading the instructions, and he was like, we opened this box from new, didn't we? And we were like, yeah. He was like, there's no nuts in it or anything to put it together. You have to get your own nuts and bolts, like. And Dave was like, well, I did buy it in the Euro shop. But what, like, the best crack of it was we were kind of thinking, is this fire going to burn a hole in the gazebo roof, like? You know?
Yeah.
And so we were like, we dug down this big hole in the middle of the gazebo and dug call it kettle, but it's like a little mini round barbecue.
Just a barbecue, really, yeah.
I don't know, 5 or 6 inches off the ground maybe. And it just, it was so class, just sitting around drinking a few beers, like. But that's like
warming the toes off the fire.
I'd say we would have never done that if it wasn't for COVID, like, because you'd be going to the pub, or you'd be doing something else.
Yeah, like if you think about, like, last year, we only really had one kind of mad trip with the lads, and it was up to Bundoran and Fundoran, as they say, and that was actually such good crack. But we're doing a lot more together as a crew, like going places and planning places and different things.
Probably because you can't
go abroad, like, so you have I suppose your traditional spending money for a holiday ready to rock to go spending and having to crack around the country, I suppose.
Yeah. What I was going to say there, I can't remember.
I was going to mention there, I don't want to be embarrassing you, but at the end of the night then, we were all fairly well gone, and Anto decided Anto was like, the stir fry,
dodgy
noodles in the stir fry. After lying down for about 5 minutes at about 3 o'clock in the morning, he decided, I'm gonna puke everywhere. So he got up anyway, and he went everywhere. Down. Well, yeah, he got up anyway.
What was going through my head is, it's black dark. I'm going to go for a stroll down the beach. The boys won't see me going anywhere, and I'll just have a nice little bit of sick into the ditch there. It'll be grand. No one will know any different. And sure, little they know I was only about 10 yards away from the tent. And the boys heard me, like. But I felt grand. We were all fairly well on at this stage. Davey decided to bring a fishbowl, and
Dave made a big cocktail. Dave thought he was in Ibiza, I think.
Yeah, he wanted to relive his Magaluf days.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I reckon just that sugary in concoction mixed with all the cans of Ulmers that we had. Just the minute I lay down, the whole world starts spinning, and I thought, holy fuck, I'm going to have to get sick. So I just went. It happens to me regularly enough. Like, I just get sick and go to bed. Happy days. Yeah. But geez, the next day
then we tipped on a nice little breakfast in an Apple Green somewhere, and tipped on home, but halfway on the way home, and I was like, Andrew, pull over there, will you? And I found the nearest point to pull over, and he's out and he's getting sick on the side of the road, and I just thought, right, this is him for the rest of the weekend, I'd say.
I was just staring at the ground of the car the whole way home, concentrating, like, I'm not getting sick. I was just telling myself, don't get sick. And I think that just made it worse, like, to be honest. But once I got out of me, I was grand.
Yeah.
Got home, got a shower, fell asleep for 5 hours.
It's funny because, like, I actually find, like, since lockdown, because, like, I didn't actually do that much drinking in January and February, March, because, like,
you fed up with it after Christmas.
And I was just like, sure, I've nothing planned or nothing going on, so I wasn't actually doing too much drinking. And then I didn't drink at all over lockdown because, like, there was no reason to. So I've actually found that since, like, lockdown measures started lifting, and we've been doing a bit more drinking and having the crack, I get drunk way quicker.
Yeah.
And, like, I actually get, and I can't handle it then. I'm just talking absolute scutter to the lads, or just saying stupid things. The next day I'm like, oh, why did I say that? It's like I'm 17 again, drinking for the first time, talking absolute shite. So yeah, I'd say that might hit you as well, not being able to drink as much.
Yeah, but, like, I wonder, that could be something we could talk about there now. Like, just, do you know the way, because pubs aren't open, people are really missing that social aspect.
Just pull the chair around there.
The view of the camera. People are missing the social aspect of the pubs, and, like, part of kind of what we're going to talk about is, like, cafes are kind of filling that void. Like, people going for a bite to eat to meet up with people that, because normally they'd see them on Friday night in the pub or off a Saturday night, or they'd go out and meet and then go out for drinks.
Like, the restrictions for restaurants are an hour 45, I think 105 minutes. I'm not sure if that's been pushed to 2 hours or what, but that's the restrictions, right? But most, like, rural pubs, like the pubs up the road, during the week you have people who are finished work or whatever, and they'll literally pop in
for a pint, and
there'll be literally 1 or 2 pints, so less than an hour, chatting to one of the lads, or chatting to friends, and they'll meet up and then they'll tip on home. that's just gone, and they're not even there for an hour and 45 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and then because they're wet pubs up the town now, bowling's after opening up a bit of a kitchen there.
Yeah,
they've been
pizza
improved.
and a pint kind of thing.
Yeah, so like I'm looking forward to tipping up there just for that, just to give bowling's a bit of a boost, or like just a bit of help or whatever. But like it's really frustrating, especially from their perspective, that they don't have people coming in until the weekend. They don't have people coming in for more than an hour 45 anyway. So it's like, why can't they do something similar
during the week?
Yeah, and even on the weekend,
just
constrict, like even on the end, just have it strictly an hour 45 as well. It's like, what's the big deal? Like, if restaurants in Dublin can do it and have people pouring drink into people's throats from the bar, how come a pub up there where 10 people might come in the evening,
the locals, like,
and they'll just sit at their own tables anyway and just chat away?
That's one of the frustrating things about it. But like, I wonder, like, since lockdown, even like the social aspect of even drinking at the moment, because you can go for food and drinks, a lot of people are kind of just going, getting their €9 food and then staying out, and a lot of pubs are probably just saying, feck it, like, stay on, like, or whatever, keep, you know, once you get your €9 meal on your receipt, you're grand.
Well, the pubs, like, they've been struggling obviously, so they're probably like,
trying to get a few bob in.
Like that extra couple of pints in a half an hour might actually give them a nice boost for that evening, from each table.
Per table, like, yeah.
So like a couple of months of making no money, like, they have to do something, I suppose. But at the same time, that is against the regulation, so you wouldn't want to be like putting a pub at risk by asking them, can you stay on too long?
Yeah, there is a grey area over, people are kind of side eyeing
it's like when you're in a pub at 1 o'clock. It's like when you're in a pub at 1 o'clock at night in like a rural enough place, and you're just like, oh, I wonder will lock-in happen, and you're just looking, you're like, oh, they're calling for last orders, and see everyone leave, and you're just like, oh, I wonder, can we stay, sip nice and slow, and then you just see the barman walking over, not locking up the door, and you're like, yes. And then the barman comes over and chats away for a while or something. But it's like that kind of lockdown. It's like that lock-in kind of moment where you're like, oh, I'm getting away with something here.
That's what I think. People love getting away with things as well. Like, if you're like sitting there having your food and your few pints, like, and you're looking at the waitress kind of being cheeky, like, we'll get another 3 pints. I was actually eating food in a pub there, myself and Laura, last week, and 2 bios arrived in, kind of old lads. And they sit up in the chair, like, and the girl came over and was like, 2 menus, lads. And they were like, yeah, 2 pints first anyway, and then we'll look at the menu then. Trying to probably buy their time, like, get the pints, then have a 20-minute look at this menu.
Yeah, another pint
while they're looking at the menu.
Get a soup there, or...
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Just like extending their stay, but...
Yeah.
I think that's just the way it's going to be for a while, I think.
Yeah. Sure, look, we're hitting about 50 minutes there now, so we're probably talking shite a bit too long.
Probably are.
We'll leave it at that. What we'll just finish. If do you want to go through the different socials and stuff, and where you might be able to get this, we've created a Spreaker account.
Yeah, there's this app that, look, one of my mates, Connor Taggart, he actually is doing a fairly new podcast at the moment called the Conquest Podcast. Give it a listen if you're interested. Have a look on Instagram and Spotify. But he mentioned when I was saying that we're going to do the podcast that he uses an app called Spreaker. So we just decided to do that because it spreads it out over the iTunes, Spotify, all the kind of podcast platforms for you. So we're going to hopefully have this up on iTunes, Spotify, and all the kind of usual places that you'd have podcasts. Just for our social medias, really. If you want to get in touch with us, our social media on Instagram is _ the Latte Show. We have a TikTok page called the Latte Show.
Yeah, we have a TikTok page. We're going to try and get the teenagers videos. And just see if we can get some sort of a viral video up.
Get the word out there.
Do a few TikTok dances.
If you want to, we'd love to hear any ideas, any topics that you want us to talk about. So drop us a DM on Instagram.
And we're videoing it as well as for YouTube. We think the video is going to be a good aspect of the podcast for anyone who's interested in looking at the kind of, because that's what's so important about cafes these days, is
the inside,
what they look like, all the rest of it. And it's good to basically, I listen to podcasts a lot on YouTube, and I'd watch them as well. Like, I'd be happy enough to just watch a podcast. So if anyone's interested in doing that, instead of just listening to on Spotify, at least that option's there for you as well.
Yeah.
And if we're like in a particular place, you'll be able to look at the decor and stuff in the background. And yeah, hopefully we might be able to bring in someone from the cafes to have a chat.
Yeah,
and
like,
then you'll be able to see what they look like and see,
pick their brain on the coffee industry, and see how they're kind of why they decided to open up a cafe in the first place, or what sort of money is there to be made, even, or how busy are they, but just kind of as well there, just in relation to maybe dropping us messages there on social. If you want to email us on the latte@gmail.com, if you want to communicate with us that way, that'd be perfect as well. And also, if you do have any cafes in mind that you know of that you think we should try out or check out, definitely drop us a DM. And any cafes listening, drop us a DM. We'll be happy to communicate with you.
Yeah, we've got a few like in the slid into our DMs already, and we're actually looking really forward to getting out and actually getting this on the road, I suppose, a bit. And first introduction's over with. We're this is the hard part over, really, is getting it going. Once the ball's rolling, I think we'll be flying it. Yeah, I'm delighted with how this first one went. So I suppose we'll finish it there. Give us an old DM.
Thanks for listening.
Throw us onto your Instagram stories and all that crack. And I suppose if you're listening and you thought this is actually decent, say it to one of the lads, say one of your friends,
pass
one
the
of the girls.
podcast on. Yeah, definitely.
Just say, oh lads, if any is interested in podcasts, listen to the Byrne Twins here on the Latte show. And we'd appreciate it. Thanks a million, I suppose, and we'll leave it at that.
Good night, God bless.
Good luck, see you later.